Hey, it took me a while. It did take me a while, but I made it back. Isn't this frustrating, man? There is something about France, isn't it? Every time I'm here, I'm getting a lot of people on my streams, and then the internet kind of drops halfway through. This is so frustrating. And we had like a good thing going on. So I'm probably gonna have to wait a second till you guys realize that I'm back on and people kind of rejoin the stream. But it is so annoying. So annoying. Okay. So let's see. Let's see if that shows me. Let's see if that shows me on at the moment. Just give me a second here, guys. Because normally if I'm talking to myself, then this is not super funny. So yeah. Yes, so I am on. I can see myself on the stream. That's good. What I think I should invest like my YouTube friends. I should invest on a machine that keeps the stream up and puts a kind of technical error message while this is going on. But hey, I mean, thank you for sticking with me during our technical interruption. Yes, this is so supremely annoying. I mean, what more can you do? I've got two different internet connections here. Okay, switching from one to the other, and then it still doesn't work. I mean, it does. If it doesn't want to do it, what was I complaining about when it dropped? Do you think there's somebody watching us and pulling the plug when I say stuff that they don't consider appropriate? You guys think there's some sort of conspiracy going on? Was I complaining about Kaplan again? I think it's the moment when I said that the VU centers, the test centers are dingy. The whole thing went clack. So yes, I think they're watching us, man. I think this is all a huge conspiracy. No, it's even worse. I was talking to you guys about my hashtag. Hang on. So let's try this again and see if the evil powers are gonna take us down. So my hashtag was free SQE prep. There. Do you guys want free SQE prep? Hit the like button or give us an emoji or something if you guys are into free SQE prep. That's what we want. So I'm staging a revolution against you guys getting scammed by all these dodgy providers that are kind of downloading MCQs, repackaging them, and selling them to you in the form of SQE prep. This stuff is not on, man. It is not right. So that's why I'm sticking everything that I've got and everything that I can think of, from videos to lectures to podcasts to flashcards to infographics to tips to discount codes to everything I can think of. I'm throwing everything in your direction. Say yes. So I'm throwing everything at you. Why? So you guys get a taste of what's going on before you commit to pay anything. Okay. So if you're new to this and you've got no idea what's happening and you need an introduction to the material, then really you're not in a position to go pay good money to get that introduction. So my material is here to help you as an introduction to the FLK, an introduction to the SQE, an introduction to your prep process, and then you can decide whether you actually want to go and spend some money for it. And now everything on the website is either free immediately now or will be free shortly. The only thing that I do is because I've got paid members to the channel. So for $2.99 a month, you can buy me a coffee and then you get first dig at these resources. These resources will eventually be available for everybody for free, right? Hence the hashtag free SQE prep. So if you're a paid member, you get a little bit more access to me and you get all the videos that I've got early on, and you don't have to wait for the kind of schedule for them to post it. But if you can wait a little bit and that's not the problem for you, you will get the same stuff for free anyway. So the idea was not to create another paywall and another barrier for you guys. The idea was to give you as much as possible for free to help you along in your preparation. Now, Mahmoud is having a question in the chat. So he says, is it possible to study for the SQE just through videos? The short answer is no, okay? Because the videos are there for consolidation. The videos serve two purposes. They're either there as an early introduction, if you don't know anything about the topic and you want a quick overview. There are some stuff that we don't do at law school. So there are some people that have never seen some stuff, okay? Things like civil and criminal procedure. Nobody does that stuff at law school. So if it's something that you really got zero familiarity with, watching the videos gives you some understanding of what's going on. Equally, if you do have familiarity, but you did this ages ago or in a compartmentalized manner and you want a quick refresher, the videos can be a useful quick refresher. So the videos can be either an introduction to what's going on or a revision tool. And also, I'm a big believer in multimodal presentation, meaning that you can access the same resource in an audio, in a video, in a text, in a book, in whatever you want. And my belief is that the more you're exposed to the same information through different avenues, the more likely it is to stick in your head. So my resources here are not a complete package of preparation. They're not designed for that purpose. They're not meant to be that. They are there to consolidate, to help you consolidate your knowledge. They're there to help support you while you're already studying. They're there perhaps to give you different avenues to approach something through a nice podcast or a nice visual so you don't fall asleep while you're trying to read that stuff. So I don't think it is safe to try and self-study purely on the basis of information that you find on YouTube, be it my videos or somebody else's. However, it is possible that you can effectively self-study. I do have a variety of videos that I'm discussing when people are able to self-study and when people should take the help of a prep school. And there are sort of different profiles of candidates that might match one as opposed to the other. If you're self-studying, you need to get the books because I don't think there's any way around this. My recommendation is that you get the revised SQE books. These are good. They're designed for the SQE. They remain pretty much the only complete set of resources designed for the SQE. And if you want to buy those, I've got a discount code on my newsletter that gives you like 10% off if you buy straight on their website. And in any event, they're not really that expensive, right? But you get this discount code works for like individual titles, but also the whole set if you want to get the complete set. So if you get the revised SQE books and you get and you try and use whatever you can find for free online and you watch all the videos that you can find, this puts you in a better position towards your prep. But then you will need to identify where you have significant gaps in knowledge and support those with additional texts that you can get online. But I would not recommend buying an extensive set like Oxford University Press has got its own set of resources. This is not manageable because it's just so lengthy. These are the sort of stuff that one would spend 3 or 4 years studying if they were doing a complete undergraduate law degree, right? So what you could do perhaps is if you say you got good familiarity with the parts of the FLK, but you're missing specific bits, then you can rework and revise those specific bits by getting a longer text if you need to. So this was a very complicated way to say no to your suggestion that no, you cannot just study for the SQE watching videos. I wish that was the case, but unfortunately we're not there. The videos are a supportive resource to go together with other stuff. And I think as with every exam, it's going to be incredibly difficult to attain the level of competence that you need unless you also have some textual resource. But when we got cut off rudely when the previous stream failed because of the internet, I was talking about some kind of final elements of preparation and especially your mental preparation as you're walking into the exam. This is specifically relevant for the people who are kind of walking into this exam next week, right? One important thing is do not attempt to work out how you did once you exit the exam hall, okay? It is important that you compartmentalize and you put stuff behind you and you don't linger on it. So a dangerous thing to do is to come out of the exam hall and start chatting with the other candidates of how they did, or to ring up all your friends from the prep school and ask them how they did. This is likely to just stress you out. I think it's going to be better if you're thinking, I've done it, I completed this part of the FLK, I'm now completely done with it, I forget about it, I move on to the next part of the FLK that I'm being examined tomorrow or in a couple of days, okay? So you need to sort of find closure in the bits that you've done and progress forward. You do not really have the time, and you should not waste the mental energy in trying to kind of re-engineer what you've done in an exam that you have already passed, okay? Now, importantly, remember that this is an exam, it's not your entire life. And I know that there's a lot of money and a lot of time spent in preparation for this. So if you think that it's not going well, it's going to be hugely stressful. But there's a life out there regardless. So I know that this is super difficult, but as we've said in previous streams when we were talking about the mentality of preparation, do not let the experience of the exam dominate your entire understanding of yourself and your self-worth and your confidence and so on. Treat it as a particular artificial exercise within its own terms, okay? You could still be a great lawyer if you didn't pass the SQE in the first attempt. Maybe you guys have seen the interview that I had with my friend and former student Isam. Isam sat the exam. He was doing SQE1 because he's exempt from SQE2. He was sitting SQE1. He did not pass the first time around. He passed the second time. And we've got like a nice interview. It's actually like the first video that comes up on the channel. A nice interview where we talk about how that felt and how he dealt with it and what he did to prepare and so on. So even if, do not try and gonna work what happened when you're walking out of the exam hall. But in the unlikely event that you didn't do well, don't let this define who you are. Wait to see what happens when you get the results. If in fact you didn't pass, take some time to kind of regroup and then decide what you want to do going further. But do not let looking backwards determine your entire experience of this exam. Think of it as you do a part, you progress, always focus on the next step, and that hopefully is going to help. Right, so hopefully this helps guys a little bit. Thank you. I see that we've got some people who've joined in again after our kind of internet kerfuffle. So thank you very much for sticking around. By the way, because I had set those streams at 12:30 UK time, because I thought that way I'm catching people in the middle of their lunch break. Do you think it's more meaningful if we have them at 1 o'clock? Because I seem to have more questions, more people signing on at 1 p.m. rather than 12:30. So if you guys have got any thoughts on this, or what time of day you would prefer the live streams to be, or what time, that would be really helpful for me. So please let me know. Right, we got a question from La Pasque there. Let me see what it says. A common question for many candidates preparing right now is trying to estimate or predict whether a mock exam they have attempted reflects how well they will do. Now, my thoughts on this is part of the discussion that we've been having with people on the Reddit group. There is a wide variety on the complexity and difficulty level of the various mocks, right? And this comes out perfectly clear in the discussions that people are having. People are saying, I do the Barbary mocks and I get this, and then I do the law drills mocks and I get this, and then I do devil's advocate and I get that. None of the mocks are exactly the exam. Some of them are likely to be more difficult. Some of them are likely to be easier or contain kind of inconsistent combinations of questions. So I would treat the mocks, as I said earlier, before we got cut off, I would treat the mocks as an opportunity to revise the substantive content rather than focusing on the score it gives me. Now, I do appreciate this is difficult to do, because when you're doing a mock, you're really interested in the score, because you're thinking, if this was the exam, would I have passed it or not? What does it say about me and my prep? But this sort of glosses over the fact that the mock is not the real exam. The value of the mock is in practice, right? And what you're practicing isn't looking at scores. What you're practicing is, am I confident in this topic? I'm getting a contract law question. Do I know this? Am I fine with this topic? I'm getting a tort law question. Am I fine with this? I'm getting a question on taxation. Do I remember anything about taxation, or is this something that I skipped out entirely? So I think the better way to look at the mock tests is as identifiers of areas of the FLK that you're not that comfortable with. And then what you do as a result is that you go back and revise that area of the FLK. And if you are interested and you just cannot get over the fact that you're getting different scores in different tests, just attempt multiple ones. I think perhaps the worst thing to do is to stay with the tests that have been given to you by your prep school, right? Because then you're locked to one prep school's interpretation of what the exam looks like. I think variety here is important. So the further examples you can have and the more connection that you can have with different people's impressions of what the exam is like, then that's the best. How do we write these exams? I mean, I probably should reconnect after I've got this meeting with Kaplan. It's like in 40 minutes now. We all work with the exams, with the sample exam questions that the SRA has given us, right? That's what we do. Because nobody really, I mean, okay, we've got people who've gone through it and they told us what the questions were looking like, and it helps us benchmark which questions are actually closer to the real ones in the exam, but we don't know for sure because Kaplan is not sharing the past papers. So we work from the SRA templates and we work from the SRA released questions, and we try to make them look like this. But in reality, nobody really knows what the questions in the exam actually are going to look like. So don't rely on a single person's or a single school's interpretation of what the tests look like. Do as many as possible. The ones that I'm involved in, Revise SQE, they've got their textbooks, they're very good. My friend Anne, who runs Law Drills, has taken the Revise SQE questions and has made mini mocks that are timed on the Law Drills website. Also, I've curated some mini mock tests for the Law Drills website that are as close to the exam as I can possibly get them. So I would recommend having a look at those, in addition to whatever you're doing from the stuff that you registered with already. I mean, these are not, the mini mocks are not free, but you know, they don't really cost that much money. I think now we're pricing the mini mocks at like £7.50 or something. So have a look through my website and my newsletters and so on. I've got discount codes for all of that stuff that can make it even cheaper. Okay, shall we attempt, before the internet drops again, shall we attempt some MCQs? Yes? Who wants to do some MCQs? Let me see if I can bring my my set of slides back. Do you think it's the slides that dropped the internet? You never know. You never know. Right, so what do we have? Okay. Yeah, that's it. Harry. Let's have a stab at Harry. Now, Harry here enters into a contract with Premium Builders Limited. The contract is to construct a bespoke conservatory for his home for £30,000. The completed conservatory, however, does not meet the required specifications. The roof is constructed from cheaper materials and the dimensions are smaller than those stipulated in the contract. To rebuild the conservatory properly would cost Harry an additional £15,000. However, an independent valuation indicates that the value of Harry's property has only decreased by £5,000 due to the builder's errors. Harry wants your advice on the measure of damages he can claim compensation for this breach of contract. Which of the following correctly describes the difference between cost of cure and difference in value as measures of expectation loss in damages? 1. The cost of cure measure provides damages based on the cost of correcting the defects to meet contractual specifications, whereas the difference in value measure compensates for the actual decrease in the property's market value due to defects. Option 2. The difference in value measure always provides higher compensation than the cost of cure, as it factors in subjective disappointment and inconvenience. Option 3. The cost of cure measure always limits compensation for the loss in the property's market value, whereas the difference in value measure compensates fully for any additional expenses needed to rectify the breach. Option 4. Both measures are identical in law. Courts always award damages based on the property's decrease in market value alone. Or is it option 5? The difference in value measure exclusively considers the cost required to rebuild or correct defects, ignoring the property's market value entirely. Okay, what do we think is the correct answer? Have you noticed how we're drinking Coke today, not coffee? Yes, it's the summer mode. That's why. Okay, now what is the correct answer here? The correct answer here, ladies and gentlemen, is option 1. The cost of cure measure provides damages based on the cost of correcting the defects to meet contractual specifications, whereas the difference in value measure compensates for the actual decrease in the property's market value due to the defects. When you get to the area of damages, well, when you get to the area of remedies to begin with, you will quickly notice that damages is the main way in which breach of contract is compensated. But of course, saying that damages, meaning that a monetary sum in compensation, is what people are normally after and what the court will normally award, doesn't give you a mechanism for calculating those damages. The mechanisms that we've got available are some prospective measures and some kind of backwards looking measure. The standard measure is the prospective measure. It's called expectation loss. Where would you have been if the contract was properly performed? In case that's the main one that the courts are going to use. In case that's not available for some reason, then you can look at the backwards looking measure, which is called the reliance loss, which is compensation for wasted expenditure. But this tends to be more limited. So the traditional measure is the forward-looking one. Where would you have been if the contract had been properly performed, if the promises had been fulfilled? But now you need a mechanism to actually arrive at a specific amount. So you've determined you need remedies, you determined that the appropriate remedy is damages, you remember that you determined that the appropriate measure for obtaining those damages is expectation loss, but how do you calculate the actual number? This is where the cost of cure versus the diminution in value comes in. Cost of cure means I need to fix this. How much money do I need to pay to fix this? Difference in value means I wanted this, you gave me this. What is the difference in price? How much does this cost as opposed to this one? Yeah. Now, this one, the court will assess on the basis of the circumstances. So remember this, you do not select. So it's not the victim of the breach that gets to make this selection on the measure. And we've got case law, are actually electronics, Farley and Skinner. These are good illustrations of where the difference in value was not reflecting the cost of cure. And the example that we've got here with Harry is a good illustration of this, actually. Making something not according to specification could end up with something that is of equivalent value, right? I wanted a red phone, I got a white phone. Whatever, the price of the red and the white is the same. I didn't get what I wanted, okay, but it's the monetary difference isn't there. But were I to fix it, say to buy replacement components to change the color of the phone, that might cost a great deal of money, right? So here, even though the conservatory is not built according to specification, the difference in the value that it adds to the house is not very different from what it would have been if it had been done to spec, but destroying the conservatory, the rebuilding it to specification costs a great deal. The courts do not like to waste money, because if the courts automatically went for the higher number, right, that would lead to perhaps overcompensating the victim, and you don't want to do that, okay? Why would you overcompensate the victim of the breach for something that is not in fact lost? This is not how damages are meant to work. So in any event, it's like a good recap of what happens in this area of damages and what mechanisms do we have to calculate damages, especially in the area of expectation loss. The correct answer in this context is answer number 1, because that gives us the better description of what the measures are like. Okay, let's move on to the next one. If it wants to, because, there we go, Amira. All right, now, Amira is a solicitor. She's acting for a buyer who's purchasing a freehold residential property in England for £450,000. The property is registered at the land registry. As part of the conveyancing process, Amira must investigate the seller's title. The seller's solicitor has sent a contract package, including the official copy of the title register and the plan. Amira is now considering what steps to take to investigate title effectively before her client commits to the purchase. Which of the following best describes the main purpose and process of investigating title in a residential property conveyancing transaction? Is it to verify the buyer's identity and mortgage offer so the seller can withdraw if the buyer lacks funding for completion? Is it to confirm that the seller has a valid and marketable title, check for any defects, restrictions, or third-party rights, and raise pre-contractual inquiries to clarify any issues? Is it to assess the buyer's financial position and confirm that they can afford the mortgage repayments over the next 25 years? Is it to ensure the local council has no objections to the sale and that the seller has received planning permission for the property? Or 5, is it to prepare the buyer's stamp duty land tax return and submit the application to the land registry following exchange of contracts? Okay, what do you guys think should be the correct answer in what is happening here with Amira? Okay, 1, 2, 3. The correct answer is 2. Right, there we go, like that. The mirror image is making it really difficult. So the correct answer is number 2, to confirm that the seller has a valid and marketable title, check for any defects, restrictions, or third-party rights, and raise pre-contractual inquiries and clarify any issues. Now, this we're looking for a single best answer. So we have a look at why the rest of them are wrong. The first one that says to verify buyer's identity and blah blah blah. No, that's completely wrong, man. We're not talking about the buyer here at all. Okay, so this is wrong on a variety of levels, because figuring out that the seller has the title to sell doesn't have anything to do with the buyer's identity and mortgage offer. So 1, completely wrong. Again, 3 is about the buyer, completely wrong. 4 is about the council. This is wrong in law, right? It doesn't have anything to do with the council. The title inquiry has to do with the seller and their ownership of the property. 5th, stamp duty land tax. Yeah, again, that's got nothing to do with it. Yeah. So actually, this is a very easy question. It's an easy question because you've got 1 correct answer and then 4 actually wrong answers. And what I've been saying in the previous streams is that the normal format for SQE1 style MCQs is that you got a couple that are wrong, either on the facts or on the law, and 3 that are plausible. One of the plausible ones is actually correct and matching better the facts of the case. So we've got this kind of breakdown, like a couple of duds, 2 that are kind of sound proper, but they're a little bit off, and 1 that is actually entirely correct. This question is a lot easier in that it's got like 4 blatantly wrong answers and only 1 that could be correct. But you probably experience this question as a difficult question because the majority of candidates have got less familiarity with property law and conveyancing than they do with other subjects. Perhaps because we do a terrible job teaching that stuff at uni, or because it is further away from people's average experience. The vast majority of candidates for the SQE tend to be in contract support roles, so they are much more comfortable with contract law and things of a commercial and business nature or company law than they are with conveyancing, probate, all of that stuff. Or maybe I'm just talking about myself here. Yes, I was never particularly good at property law. All right. Now, moving on. What is our third question? Our third question is with Melissa. Okay. Now, Melissa is the director of EcoGlow Limited. This is a company that develops sustainable lighting products. Without telling the board, Melissa sets up a separate company, Green Looks Limited. It is offering similar products to the same client base as EcoGlow. She uses her knowledge of EcoGlow's business strategy and supplier contracts to negotiate contracts for Greenlux, diverting several lucrative clients away from EcoGlow. When the board of EcoGlow discovers this, they accuse Melissa of breaching her duties as a director and they seek legal advice on possible action. Which of the following director's duties under the Companies Act of 2006 has Melissa most clearly breached? Is it one, the duty to exercise reasonable care, skill, and diligence under 174? Is it two, the duty to avoid conflicts of interest under 175? Is it three, the duty to promote the success of the company under 172? Or is it four, the duty to declare an interest in a proposed transaction or arrangement under 177? Or is it the duty to act within the powers under 171? Okay. What do we think about this? Which one would be the most plausible answer? Let's have a look. So we're talking about Melissa, who is setting up a competing business. The correct answer here is going to be answer two, the duty to avoid conflicts of interest under section 175. Yeah. Now, what 175 does is that it tries to prohibit situations when a director has or could potentially have conflicting duties with the interests of the company. And this could include stuff like competing businesses or diverting corporate opportunities or using inside knowledge for private gain or third-party gain as opposed to the one of the companies. And this is all what's happening here, right? So clearly we're going to have a problem with 175. Why not the rest of the sections? 174 is about a reasonable care, skill, and diligence. This isn't really what the problem is. I mean, Melissa could be doing a fantastic job. It's just that she's doing a fantastic job for somebody else as opposed to the company that she's working for. 172 is the duty to promote the success of the company. Now, this looks plausible, but this is not for areas where we've got a conflict of interest. Since we've got the specific provision for conflict of interest under 175, then this is the most appropriate answer rather than a general duty to do a good job for the company. Interests in proposed transactions or arrangements under 177 is more specific. The problem that we've got here is like the overall engagement that Melissa has that is diverting away corporate opportunities as opposed to participation in particular deals. That's why 177 is relevant, but is not as close as 175. And acting within the powers is not really what the problem is about here, because it could be that Melissa is acting within her powers in relation to her directorship of EcoGlow, but she's causing problems with somebody else. So what we've got here is a situation where we've got plausible potential other duties that could conflict, but the one that is most directly relevant is the one at section 175. Yeah. So correct answer here would be number 2. Okay. Now, what do we have next? So as I was saying earlier, what you guys can do with this is, if you're going through the question and you're thinking, director's duties, I know that stuff, that's good. Answer the question, look at the response, look at the explanation for what is the correct and what is the incorrect answer, move on. If you're looking at the question, you're going to go, damn, I don't know anything about director's duties. I've got like no idea. If you were asking me to put together a list of the sections, I wouldn't be able to answer that. Then you need to make a note of this and circle back to it in your revision, right? So this is the way that we're going to approach MCQs right now at the very end of this process. You know the area, you're confident with the area, you got the correct answer, move on. You have difficulties with the area because that part of the FLK looks unfamiliar, make a note to wrap it into your revision schedule for your last remaining days. Right. There's a wasp that's circling me. If it bites me and you see me fall off the chair, somebody's gonna have to call an ambulance. Hopefully you're not watching this on the replay, because then that's not gonna be any good, is it? That's why I should have a lot. That's the value of a live audience. In case the live streamer kind of falls dead, somebody's there in real time to call for the ambulance, right? Okay. Of course, you wouldn't help because you guys don't know where I am. I said I'm vaguely in France. It's not going to help you. Okay. That aside, let's have a look at this question. Daniel and Priya have set up a private limited company, SolarGen. They manufacture and sell solar-powered generators. They each invest £10,000 as shareholders and appoint themselves as directors. The company has taken a business loan of £100,000 for a bank to purchase equipment. A year after this, SolarGen fails to generate profits and becomes insolvent. The company is unable to repay the bank loans. The bank demands that Daniel and Priya personally repay the outstanding balance. Daniel and Priya seek legal advice, arguing that they're not personally liable for the company's debts. Which of the following legal principles best protects Daniel and Priya from personal liability for SolarGen's debts? Okay, remember, pay attention to what the question is asking. The question is saying the company takes out a business loan of £100,000, right? And then gets into trouble. So your options: 1. The rule in Foss and Harbottle prevents shareholders from being sued for company losses. 2. The principle of ultra vires, which limits company liability for acts within its constitutional powers. 3. The doctrine of separate corporate personality, established in Salmon and Salmon, which provides that the company is a separate legal entity responsible for its own debts. 4. The common law principle of caveat emptor, which limits liability in commercial transactions. 5. The veil of incorporation, which automatically makes directors immune from all legal claims relating to company operations. What is the correct answer? All of them are slightly bad. This is the situation where it's not like you got a bunch of questions and a bunch of them are looking to be correct and you're trying to filter out. Here, you got a bunch of questions that all of them seem to be wrong. And you're trying to filter out which one of them is less wrong than the other ones, right? Now, Foss and Harbottle is the one about derivative actions, how an individual shareholder can complain to defend company interests when the board of directors is not interested to do anything. Wrong in the context of this question, right? This question is about limitations of liability and all of that stuff. That's not it. So it's talking about something else. Ultra vires, again, is something that talks about something else. This is about figuring out what happens if somebody enters into a deal without having appropriate authority on behalf of the company. So this is not relevant to the thing. 1, wrong. 2, wrong. 3, the doctrine of separate corporate personality established in Salomon, about the company being a separate legal entity responsible for its own debts. That, guys, is the correct answer. Not because it's a great answer, but it is less wrong than the others. Number 4 is about caveat emptor. It's got nothing to do with this. This means, like, you're responsible for the consequences of your own decisions and you should do your homework. It's got nothing to do with what's happening. Now, 5 is talking about the veil of incorporation. So you might be thinking, hang on, the reason why the company repays its debts and not the individual directors or shareholders is because the veil of incorporation protects them from liability for company debts. But look at what the question is actually saying. It's saying that the veil of incorporation automatically makes directors immune from all legal claims relating to company operations. No, it doesn't. Okay, there's a whole stack of things that the directors might be liable if they do wrong in the performance of their duties. So the word that says all legal claims is the one that makes 5 not an option, because that is clearly wrong. So it's talking about the correct thing, but the rest of the information that follows is wrong. So if 1, 2, and 4 are totally wrong and irrelevant, and 5 is wrong because of that detail, then what are we left with? We're left with number 3. I don't like number 3 because it's saying separate corporate personality provides that the company is a separate legal entity responsible for its own debts. Well, not quite. The whole point about Solomon and separate corporate personality is that the company is a different creature in the eyes of the law. Whether that creature benefits from limited liability or not is a slightly separate topic. So the limited liability usually stems from the idea of separate corporate personality, but it is not obligatory. It's not obligatory to have a limited company. You could have a company and an entity that's incorporated that is unlimited. So it would benefit from the separate corporate personality, yes, but it would not benefit from limited liability. Okay? So that's why technically, all questions here are wrong, but if I needed to choose between the wrongness in 3 and the wrongness in 5, the wrongness in 5 is stronger. So by a process of elimination, single best answer. It is not single perfect answer, it is single best answer. So single best answer here is 3. And I think this is a wonderful example actually, because we spend quite a lot of time talking about making selections amongst possible potential answers that are all great. It's like they look great, they look like they match, and how you filter out the greatness. But it's also that it's also possible that the majority of them just suck. And you think these are all wrong, how am I going to find the best answer amongst all of them and they all seem to be wrong? So this kind of flips the process onto its head. So hopefully it is helpful for you guys. If you're finding this helpful and insightful, give us like a thumbs up or put like a comment in the box or something like that, so more people can see this, and then we can spread the hashtag that says free SQE prep to everybody else. So we lift ourselves away from the clutches of the predatory, scammy online prep schools. And we do stuff for free on YouTube. There we go. And don't start complaining that we're enriching American corporations, right? Somebody's gonna make money at the end of the day. The question is, who pays for it? So rather the general public on YouTube than you guys personally on some scammy online prep school. Right, next up. And this, I think, is going to be, yes, that's going to be our final question. So we have got Build Right. Build Right Limited is a construction company. They hire Leo, a subcontractor, to refurbish several apartments for a fixed price of $50,000. Midway through the project, Leo struggles financially and is at risk of not completing the work on time. This would cause the Right Build to incur penalty charges under the main contract. To avoid delay, Right Build offers Leo an additional £10,000 if he completes the refurbishment on time. Leo accepts and continues working. After finishing the work on time, Right Build refuses to pay the extra 10 grand and argues that Leo was merely performing his original contractual obligations. Leo considers legal action to recover the additional payment. Can Leo successfully claim the additional 10 grand? All right. What are our options? A, no, because performing an existing contractual duty can never amount to valid consideration for a new promise. B, yes, because Leo provided a practical benefit to Build Right by completing the work on time and helping them avoid penalty charges which would amount to valid consideration. C, no, because any modification to a contract must be supported by entirely new work beyond the contractual obligations. D, yes, but only if Leo can prove Build Right acted in bad faith by promising to pay without any intention of honoring it. Or is it E? No, because of the rule in Stilk and Myrek. No additional payment can be enforced if the contractor merely does what they're already contractually obligated to do. What is the correct answer here? You should know, because this is my favorite topic. It's the case that I've been talking about for donkey's years. I've been telling all my undergraduate students non-stop about this. I made a great video about it, and actually I made multiple videos about it. So what is my favorite case? What's the case that everybody keeps banging on about contractual modification that's been, the pebble in the shoe, the grain of sand in the eye, the whatever kind of crappy metaphor you want for lawyers ever since the decision came out in the 90s. Williams and Roffey, yes, the case about practical benefit consideration. Woohoo! The old law represented in cases like Stilk and Myrek said that if you're performing existing contractual duty, you don't offer anything extra, you don't deserve any more payment. A contractual modification requires new consideration. So both parties need to do something new. If one of the parties does something new and the other party does the same thing, the situation is unbalanced. Therefore, the contract has not been successfully renovated or revamped, right? It has not been updated. But then comes Williams and Roffey and slaps the face of Williams and Roffey out of the way by introducing the idea of practical benefit consideration, which effectively says, even though you're doing the same thing, if by doing the same thing you give some sort of benefit to the other party or the other party avoids some sort of specific trouble, then that same thing that you did now amounts as consideration. I know it makes no sense whatsoever. So it's a reflection of practical necessity of what happens in real life when people are, engaging in these sorts of deals. And everybody who's had construction work probably noticed this, that it always costs extra. It's a reality of how people do business. But theoretically, there's absolutely no reason to accept practical benefit consideration. But there you go. The law is what the law is. So Williams and Roffey is good law, and so it seems. It still can Myrek. But for our purposes here, the correct answer would be B. Yes, because Leo provided a practical benefit to Build Right. How did he do this? He completed the work on time. He helped them avoid penalty charges, and that amounts to valid consideration. If you have a problem with this, take it up with the court, not me. I am simply the messenger. All right. Cool. Guys, we have reached almost the end of the show. And not only this is the end of the show, this is the end of this series of live streams, because these last 7 weeks were intended to prepare you guys for SQE1 that is kicking off next week. So I hope you found these live streams useful. I intended them as an opportunity for the community to get together, for people to kind of meet other candidates, especially for those of you who are self-studying and you're feeling they're kind of stuck in your rooms studying stuff by yourselves. And I thought, we need like a point to kind of touch base and to kind of see that there are other people struggling through this. If you guys are still around and you want to connect, feel free to post messages either on the comments on the videos or in the community tab in my channel, or I can meet you guys on our Facebook group or on Reddit. Perhaps it's a little late for you guys to subscribe to the newsletter, but the newsletter is still coming out no matter what, right? So it's still going to come out next Monday. So I hope you found all this useful. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sticking through our technical problems and interruptions as always when we are overseas. So I would like to wish you guys the best of luck in the upcoming exam next week. So, I feel for you. You're going to do great. Don't panic. Stick to the things that we said and you're going to be fine. And you're going to then have the rest of your summer to enjoy yourselves without having to worry about the bloody SQE, right? So thank you, guys. I'm off to my Kaplan workshop, and I'll see you guys next time.